Welcome back to the channel, guys. I've been breeding false water cobras for well over a decade. You'll know if you know me or anything I've written in magazines or any of the channel videos. I love false water cobras. Check out the snake playlist, find out more about them. But for those of you that are thinking about breeding them for the first time, I think this is a video that, I don't think there's anything like on the internet, I'm not sure, but a real helpful thing, and it's put into place because it's a video that the kind of questions I get asked regularly on messages by people breeding them for the first time, just to talk you through the whole egg laying process, what they need, what they do, put some of those worries to rest, chill out, follow a few guidelines, and you're going to have no problem eggs, hatching them, and some great little babies. Hope it helps some of you guys out. Check it out, enjoy it, catch you later. So you kind of think, oh, that's great. My snake's got so many eggs in it's going to explode. It's so gravid. And big mature snakes, the bigger they get, usually the more snakes they produce. So you're going to think, wow, look at all those baby false water cobras in the making here. The reality is, it doesn't matter how well your snake's conditioned before, a big clutch like this really strips out that snake. It depletes its bone structure for the calcium, and it really takes away its body mass. And you can see that even here on the front end of its body. When a snake's gravid, it's usually the back third that really twirls. You can see quite a skinny snake now. So 12 days to go, give or take, and we should have false water cobra eggs 2025. And a snake that's going to need quite a lot of conditioning. Remember, this year the plan was not to breed from her. The market in the UK for snakes is so quiet that, you know, you don't want stuff that people don't want. I'll soon find homes for them, but they're not, nothing's in great demand. Unfortunately, there's a divider that keeps the male and female apart here, and she breached that divide for a session. So more false water cobras this year, but I really didn't want to breed her this year, and I wanted also not to take that body condition away. A lot of eggs like this can take an awful lot of condition out of these snakes for sure. Now this big girl shed her skin a week ago, so she's about a week away from laying her eggs. 7 foot false water cobra, quite simplistic. She can hide in the dark end away from the light behind a water bowl. We've got leaf litter for her to nuzzle through. They love their leaf litter, they really do, dried leaves. But pretty plain and boring. I mean, it does open up, there's a hole in that water bowl, and at certain times of the year they can use it all. The male's in there, he has something tight to get in. Male falses are a much slimmer animal, but again, very simplistic. And this is the thing with big snakes that aren't in huge enclosures, you really struggle to have that beautiful setup. They destroy everything in the space they've got. They're heavy bodied, they're active, and hold on, gotta go, and they destroy everything. So we're 2 days away from egg laying, well, any time now, but 2 days would make it 12 days post pre-lay shed. So very restless animals, just trying to find that perfect egg laying area, which they do in the wild, of course. In captivity they've got to make do with whatever we're providing them with. She's always had, until last year, a plastic lay box with coir chunks in there, slightly damp, well, reasonably damp, not wet, or slightly moist, I guess is the word, in a dark end of her enclosure, and she's always gone for that. Last year we removed that, and she'll lay in the corner in the dark there. So we've just wetted that. We've put a load of coir fibre in because it holds moisture well in that corner. Really moisten that down with warm water, lukewarm water. Now we're just going to leave her be, let her crack on, and as soon as those eggs have finished laying, those eggs will come out and go in the incubator. I've hatched these in the reptile room at temperatures varying over the sort of 70 days between. Look at her checking that area out. Look at that. It's checking for probably humidity, moisture, temperature, trying to find the perfect spot. She doesn't know we're going to look after them for her. She's trying to find the perfect spot to allow those eggs to develop over that long 70-day period. But for sure, I've completely forgot what I was saying. Look at that. Oh, another thing, yeah. The water bowl is now empty. Very, very important. People have had them regularly lay in their water bowl. They'll decide you've got a dry chip substrate. They'll be like, well, this is the only moisture retentive place here. I'll lay eggs in the bath. That kills them pretty quick. I've also had them, her first ever clutch, in a deeper substrate, she got under the basking tile and laid them under there. Fortunately, we were around to remove them before they cooked alive. So they're trying to find the best spot in what you provided. And you might think, well, that's pretty stupid. It's laid, it's going to drown its eggs, it's going to cook its eggs, because she's deemed those areas of all the spots she's provided with as the most suitable. There's no point her laying eggs on an ultra dry substrate. Out in the open, in the wild, they're going to get killed off, dried off, desiccated, eaten. I'll report back soon. Very restless. So it looks like she's decided to squeeze under the upturned water container, her bath. Look at that. So she's gonna lay her eggs in a box, a laying box after all, of her own making. She looks slimmer this morning, but no, I don't think so. I think she's so emaciated, really. If you actually look at her bone structure, back and a muscle tone, not a bone structure. No. I'm still waiting. She's still not due until tomorrow, really. But you can see, yes, she's fat with eggs, but you can also see the muscle, the back straps, if you like, are really depleted. Those eggs have took away. Look at her front hand. She's a very slender looking snake now. It takes a lot out of them, especially these big adults, because they tend to have big clutches and big eggs. So still waiting. Hopefully all will be well. What a load of reflection, anyway. The male doesn't give a fig. Okay, a couple of days overdue. Really restless, looking for somewhere to lay. She's laid one egg that I've just tucked there for now. Just scatter laid it. It's constantly restless, and I just couldn't understand why. So last year I took away the nest box because she's got too big, and she laid in the dark end of her enclosure. And then I've just realised I put a board across there, so it was a dark box, and I think that's why she just hasn't gone. And I've just literally put what I had here, not at work. You can't really see, I'm not going to disturb her. A lay box, something she'd have probably laid in 5 years ago, size-wise, and she immediately went in it, spent ages with her head in there checking it out. It's too small for her to curl up in, really. I've come home, and she's very settled with her back end in the box and her head hanging out, and I think she's just accepted that's the best she's going to do. So hopefully she's laying eggs right now. Okay, so there she is. It's the next morning. You can see how much a big clutch of eggs takes out of these animals. It's taking calcium from their bones. It really is stripping them, just like it does having a baby for a pregnant woman, really. But it's really, that's an emaciated snake. They even look, to be honest, like they've shrunk. So I did notice I took her bath out, her big water bath out, because they can lay their eggs in there. But I put a small bowl of water, and as it happened, as you notice, her head was sort of lounging here as she laid her eggs in the box because she couldn't fit in wholesale, and that's empty. So really important, they can rehydrate after the egg laying process normally. Let's see what's in there. Okay, we've got a slug there and a big pile of eggs. Now, the longer they're left, the harder they are to separate. When you've got a big clutch of big eggs, it's really hard to get those into an egg box because of the depth. So if your snake lays eggs in the day and you're sure it's finished laying, don't rush them. They'll often take the time to get the last ones out. That's the time to separate them for an easier life. So we've got to work on these eggs now very gently using 2 hands. They will come apart very, very gently. Just working your fingers in between them, and that way we can get them into an egg box like this. Talk you through that in a second, but really importantly to remember, keep the eggs up the same way. Many people put a black felt tip pen on the tops of them, whichever way is oriented up. Because of the way the embryo is, it can't turn the egg like a bird egg, for those that don't know. You need to keep them up the same way as they've been laid. I think you can get away with that if you're doing it straight after they've been laid. If you like, once the embryo sets, they need to be kept up the right way. I don't bother putting black dots on them anymore. I just do it one at a time and I remember which way up it was, no problem. But that's just something for those first time breeders. Those eggs need to go in the egg box oriented with top to the top, if that makes sense. So we'll work through there, see how many we've got, and I'll talk you some more. So a couple of slugs in Brian Bowers check fashion. They'll be fed to the monitor lizard. There we are, not a big clutch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 11, 12. Over 20 eggs. That's more than enough. Not as big as I thought, but then we wasn't going to breed this girl this year because we needed to get some condition back, and she managed to breed herself. If you've watched the other videos, the male and the female are kept apart by a simple divider which she breached. He's happily there. He's had a rat yesterday. So 2 clutches of eggs in here, tiny clutch of Pueblo milk snake eggs, false water cobra eggs. Both species were not to be bred or planned to be bred this year. That's just the way it goes sometimes. This is just perlite. I've tried everything from manufactured hatching mixes to all kinds, to coir chips, coir peat, vermiculite mixes. Do you know what? I've just got a massive sack of perlite, hatched everything from, I don't know, milk snakes to black-headed pythons on it, no problem at all. It doesn't absorb moisture, but what it does is it keeps the eggs sitting away from the moisture, which is in the lower level of the perlite. Use a good couple of inches. Put your eggs on top or halfway down, you decide, depending on the egg maybe. And then these are suspended off the wet. They mustn't get wet. Never put your eggs touching the sides, each other if possible, but not the sides or the lid of the container. They are going to swell, so allow for a bit of space. And then this mix can be relatively dry, lower in moisture for dry marcon, which have a heavily calcified egg and don't like to be wet, to quite damp for some other species. This has got, I don't know, I've shook off that, a good layer of condensation on there. And if I get a handful of this and squeeze it right from the bottom, it just sticks together. I couldn't squeeze any water out of this. And I'll just monitor that. If there's plenty of condensation on the lid, which you don't really want dripping on your eggs, that will tell me there's enough. If the eggs start to look a little bit like they're desiccating a tiny bit, then what we'll do, we'll add a little bit of lukewarm water down the corner, which obviously will soak through the lower layer there. So just monitor it. I usually have an air hole in the lid. I don't know if it's in this one, but not a lot. Yeah, so there's some air holes here. Can you see? So I sterilise and reuse these boxes. This is going to be taped off, and I shall just leave one hole, literally one hole, possibly one the other side, but almost airtight will work for most of these things. You want to keep that moisture in. One thing to note is, as you're getting towards hatch date, so 27.5 degrees C-ish is what I'll incubate these at. Do not do them as like a python at 31 or something like that. That's way too hot for false eggs. 27, 28. I've hatched them many times on a shelf in a reptile room, you know, where they've gone from the low 20s in a heat wave up to over 30. Everything's been absolutely fine. But these are going into the incubator. 70 days at that temperature, more or less. And then before hatching, the eggs will start to cave in. That's not desiccation. That's telling you those eggs are going to hatch anytime soon. And you have a choice. Once you see a couple start to cut their eggs, you can get a sharp razor blade and cut a little hole in all the eggs to help any that are slightly weaker or don't have an egg tooth to escape, to help them escape. Or you can let nature take its course and decide that if they can't hatch on their own, they're not fit for purpose and fit to go into the breeding cycle. That's your morals. That's up to you. In later years, I've gone from leaving them to do their own thing to, as soon as 2 or 3 are cut in, I'll cut a little slice in all the eggs, because it is heartbreaking finding a completely, perfectly, fully formed youngster that hasn't got an egg tooth maybe, especially if it's something different colour or something, that never did hatch. So that's your morals. I cut the eggs, not because time says so, only when some of the eggs are already cutting themselves, and then leave them alone. One tip with false eggs, they're shy hatchlings. If you disturb them, so just if you're going to disturb them, do it once. If you disturb a snake getting ready to hatch that's already cut its egg, it will stay in that egg, or some of them will stay in that egg and drown rather than come out into the outside world on time. Don't overly mess these guys around. If you see them hatching and you want to cut an egg, the rest of the eggs, cut them, lid back on, back in the incubator, leave them alone until they're all pretty much out. Give them that time. They don't like being disturbed. They are shy hatchlings, and they do drown if they'd rather stay in their egg than face the fear of the outside world. So I've literally just filled her bath, and I've refilled that because it's easy to get at for now. I've literally just popped into the garden for 2 minutes and she's moved. And again, very, very thirsty. A lot of effort goes into laying eggs, a big clutch of eggs like that. A lot of body mass. So she'll get a mouse later today or tomorrow, just to sort of get her digestion going again. And then we'll up that feed stuff and start getting that body weight back on. Look at that, she's pretty much, that was fun. I know this is rubbish picture quality and the blooming timer's ticking in the background, but just to give you some idea really of what to expect if you do, I suppose, breed a lot of cobras, but breeding false water cobras for the first time. There you go. I've studied, kept and caught and eaten fish all my life, and whenever I see a snake drinking, I think, gosh, you can really see how from early life forms we're kind of, our bones and structure, it's just repurposed from one design to the next. Look at that. You cut a couple of slits behind its jaw bones, it'd be breathing, wouldn't it, underwater? Look at that go. So a well-earned proper meal. Importantly, something with plenty of calcium, plenty of bone, which you can work that foot down. Start replenishing a lot of that lost nutrition, really, calories and everything else being a mum entails. So we'll leave her to eat that in peace.